Wilhelm II was the popular namesake of an approximately 25-year era of peace, which went down in history as the Wilhelmina period. He had promised the Germans glorious times, and indeed the German Empire experienced an upswing that could be described as the first German economic miracle. On the other hand, the outbreak of World War I in 1914 and the fall of the monarchy 4 years later also had their reasons in the person of the Kaiser. Wilhelm II was destined to be the last king of Prussia and German emperor. It is therefore no straightforward task to create an accurate depiction of the monarch, but considering the many accounts from the Imperial era, it becomes clear that one must differentiate between the public image of a dazzlingly self-presenting ruler and the private individual behind it, who could indeed behave quite naturally and unpretentiously. His reign, too, can be quite clearly divided into two phases, which could hardly be more contrasting. Until the start of World War I, everything was like a grand, dazzling military spectacle. A radiant emperor, riding high on horseback with the guard into maneuvers. He loved to celebrate, enjoyed the banquets held in his honor. He was on the road almost all year, with 4 luxury special trains at his disposal, inaugurated monuments in what was proverbially known as emperor weather, and graciously received numerous honors. His numerous lavish uniforms consistently drew widespread attention. Yet at the outbreak of war in August 1914, he delivered one final historic speech calling for a truce among political factions. After that, Wilhelm II more or less disappeared from the political stage for the next 4 years. Due to the revolutionary events in November 1918, the throne could ultimately no longer be saved. The Dutch Queen Wilhelmina provided asylum to the Kaiser, who, due to his dynastic connections, also maintained the title of Prince of Oranien. He initially traveled to Amerongen and remained there as a guest for the following year and a half. After acquiring House Dorn in 1919, the emperor was finally able to settle into his new residence following extensive renovations in May 1920. The birth of Prince Friedrich Wilhelm Victor Albert on January 27, 1859, turned out to be an exceptionally challenging ordeal. When Wilhelm finally entered the world, he was lifeless and might never have drawn his first breath if not for a bold midwife who, completely disregarding protocol, vigorously rubbed him with a cold, wet towel to revive him until he began to breathe. 101 gunshots announced the joyous event to an ecstatic and wildly cheering, jubilant crowd. Thousands of devoted subjects swiftly gathered in front of the Crown Prince's palace, ensuring the Prussian throne succession was firmly secured. Although life-saving, the intensive treatment still had significant consequences afterward. Among other things, the left arm was pulled so forcefully that it resulted in left-sided paralysis. After a few days, it became clear that little Wilhelm was unable to move his left arm. In addition, there was a crooked posture of his entire body. Crown Princess Victoria seemed to perceive her son's physical disability as a personal failing. She was unwilling to accept fate, and so they soon tried everything within their power to cure little Wilhelm's disabled arm. The methods were harsh, at times downright brutal. Little thought was given to the boy's emotional well-being. Thus, Wilhelm endured a childhood filled with relentless torments, from metal braces strapped to him to correct his posture, to icy showers and even the harsh application of electric shocks. It comes as no surprise that Wilhelm II later openly confessed he had led a rather unhappy childhood indeed. The relationship between Wilhelm and his mother Victoria remained very difficult throughout their lives, and consequently, so did his connection to Great Britain. Prince Wilhelm's academic performance was neither exceptionally good nor bad. He maintained a good middle position until his high school graduation. However, the student's performance did not satisfy his strict mother, as she informed him in a letter in 1874. Instead of receiving recognition for what he achieved despite his disability, he once again felt rejection, faced criticism and reprimand. It comes as no surprise that during these years Wilhelm's aversion toward his mother deepened even further. Hardly had his father closed his eyes in 1888 when all of his long-buried resentment toward his mother finally erupted. Although Wilhelm II genuinely admired his grandfather Wilhelm I with his accession to the throne, the customs at court changed completely once again. Frugality and simplicity of Wilhelm were passé. A stiff and formal ceremony took hold. Immediately upon taking office, the new emperor tightened the courtly order. In contrast to the personal modesty of his grandfather, the court under Wilhelm II now displayed significantly more pomp. Moreover, the emperor could hardly tolerate contradiction, let alone professional objections. He stubbornly clung to his personal rule. The dismissal of Bismarck in 1890 marked a major and deeply significant turning point in the empire's political direction. In stark contrast to the diplomatic brilliance of the chancellor, the young emperor was about as discreet as a cannon blast. Wilhelm craved a place in the sun, global power, colonies, a fleet. These were the rallying cries of the new era. That the German Empire was a land power seemed to matter to no one in Berlin anymore. Thus, it's undeniable that the theatricality with which Wilhelm carried himself revealed a defining trait of his personality. His Majesty only made an appearance during the finest imperial weather. In bad weather, his appearance was sometimes even cancelled. His uniform had to be perfect down to the smallest detail. Very few had the chance to see the emperor quite differently, like his cherished daughter Victoria Louisa. She had particularly vivid memories of the time they spent together during those peaceful summer retreats in northern Hesse. Because the Kaiser would frequently return to Kassel with his family during the summer vacation period. Here he practically blossomed, able to set aside the weight of his duties and genuinely open up to his family. The picnics that Wilhelm spent with his children truly stood out as the highlights of their stay. He was then cheerful and carefree. The potatoes, as Victoria Louisa described it, tasted much better by the fire, as the most wonderful meal at home. She reported, "My father himself stirred the salad, and my mother prepared pancakes for us in the pan. I also had to learn how to flip the pancakes so that, as it often happened, the whole beauty didn't end up in the fire." Wilhelm II could laugh like a big boy and then, overcome with joy, would slap his knees with delight. He had a great sense of humor and could tell wonderful stories. Just as warmly, the family celebrated Christmas together at the new palace. Wilhelm played with his grandkids on the parquet in the Hall of Mirrors, using the tin train. At the court in Berlin, such casual conduct by His Majesty would have been utterly unthinkable. Wilhelm II lived by the proverbial saying, "Eat like an emperor in the morning, like a nobleman at noon, and like a beggar in the evening." They rose late between 9 and 10 in the morning and had a substantial breakfast with 3 hot courses. Then they went out for a drive, then a short walk. From 12 o'clock onwards there were lectures, at 1 o'clock a breakfast, and afterward another drive. At 8 o'clock there was the evening meal with guests or theatre. This was followed by conversations until 12 or 1 o'clock at night. Victoria Louise reported that my father ate very little. Since he had so little served to him, he was also almost never occupied with eating meals. All the more intensely did he engage in conversation with his guests. Some of them barely got a word in edgewise. When the plates were changed, the guest hadn't even had a chance to properly enjoy the meal. Sometimes it was believed that the guest had stood up again still hungry, and I recall that it was once even said the person in question had to stop and fill up on the way back at the station restaurant to satisfy their hunger.